Hello, it's Barnes and Leslie. You know, we play the musics here, Fram.
Yes, we do.
And we've talked about how much music has come from not only Athens, but, now Atlanta. When you think about all the bands that either were from here, Black Crowes, moved here, got their start, John Mayer.
Yeah, exactly.
Among many others. But I saw this cool list come out that I wanted to talk through, and even, listeners, if you have stuff to add, rock and roll, these are the 15 biggest rock and roll landmarks that every music fan should visit. And I don't want to tell you what's on the list, and I hope you don't pick one accidentally that's on here, but can you think of anywhere, well, I guess it doesn't matter. What's the biggest rock and roll landmark where you've actually been there?
I would have to say there are a few that were in New York.
Oh, yeah.
I lived there for 3 years, but one of them that was kind of interesting that I didn't even know was there, because I worked with a guy named Matt Pinfield, you remember from MTV?
Yes.
Do you remember the cover of Physical Graffiti from Zeppelin?
Yes. That's New York?
Yes, there's these two apartment buildings, kind of iconic now, but they were built side by side. St. Mark's Place, which is, East Village, 96, 98th Street. You can actually still see it and sit on the steps. And we took photos sitting on the steps of that building. But that was actually kind of cool.
That is cool. I love when people can go places like that and recreate an album cover. For me, and that one, by the way, is not on this list of the top 15. The most touching one to me that comes to mind first, and I have been to some of these on this list, but the one that comes to mind is Kurt Cobain's house.
Oh, see, I never went there.
Sitting out front, there's like a little empty lot and a park bench that fans have scribbled and etched names and messages or, graffiti or whatever. It's organized graffiti, if you will, because it's a very nice neighborhood. Sitting out there, and as you look over your shoulder, you can look up to the little outside, I guess it was a guest house where he took his life. And, man, it's right there on the river. You look across at Bill Gates' monstrous mansion or lake, not on the river, lake. But that probably was...
That's eerie, yes.
It was super eerie, and just because we're so close to it, like just being in this, musical business for so many years. So that one was intense. Here are some. See, some of these I've never even heard of, but they're on the top rock landmarks. So if you go, there's a list of 5. These are like global. The Cavern Club in Liverpool, would love to go there. Of course, that's where the Beatles got their start. You've not been?
Never.
Number 4, Jim Morrison's grave in Paris. I have been.
I remember you told me that.
You literally have to crawl over other graves to get to his grave. The graveyard is so packed. But you see people putting pictures up all the time.
I've seen photos, yes.
Bob Marley Museum in Kingston, Jamaica. Didn't know it existed.
I didn't either.
I don't know what goes on there, but man, Jamaica is a rough visit. There's just so much hustle going on there. 2, the ABBA Museum in Stockholm.
But that's kind of cool.
Never been. I can't imagine what's there. You know what I mean? Enough to do a museum?
Well, they were, worldwide. They were huge.
I think number 1 is an obvious globally.
Abbey Road?
Yeah. You see pictures.
Yes, I've been to Abbey Road.
With people.
Been to the studio as well. It's very cool, especially Studio 2 when they haven't touched it since the Beatles.
Really? It's just they left it as is?
Left it as is. I have photos being inside there, and we did a radio show there, but yeah.
So you can go in?
You can go in. We were permitted to go in, and we did a radio show there and talked to Giles Martin. That might be one of my coolest rock experiences.
I'll be in England in the beginning of September, and there's a couple of cabbies that take tours to the famous spots in England or in London that were rock and roll based. I definitely want to do that.
Do it.
Okay, these are the 10. These are all U.S. So number 10, very close by in Macon, the Allman Brothers Band Museum.
I didn't know there was an Allman Brothers Museum.
I had no idea so many of these bands. Now, are they authentic big museums, or is this just like a house? I don't know. It's probably cool. 9, Buddy Guy's Legends in Chicago. Mm-hmm. Is that a bar?
Sounds like a bar, but maybe it's a bar/museum. We have a lot of those in Nashville.
That are bar museums?
Yeah. Where you can go in and get a bite to eat, but then the museum is attached. Like there's a Johnny Cash one.
Okay, so this is a classic blues club with up-and-coming and famous acts 7 nights a week. So I just find that to be weird to be on Rock and Roll Landmarks, but I guess it fits. 8, New York City, you probably have done this. Electric Lady Studios.
Filmed there many times.
What is that place? Like, why? I honestly don't know. Why is that?
It was, originally owned by Jimi Hendrix.
Oh.
And a really good friend of mine owns it now. But filmed a lot of cool stuff there. And, I'll tell you what, every rock and roll legend has been through there.
I should have put 2 and 2 together. I didn't realize that was his place. So he picked that up. It says here like only 2 years before he died.
Yeah. Electric Lady.
So it's had more life afterwards. We're going through the biggest rock and roll landmarks that every fan should visit. Number 7, never went. And man, is it iconic because he died there. Prince's Paisley Park.
God, I wish I had been there.
Chanhassen, Minnesota. Because, when I was telling someone about this the other day, because we were at Prince's house in Turks and Caicos that he owned before he died, his $15 million villa.
That's worth a visit.
Look on my Instagram, you'll see it. It's got a purple driveway. But his place, so he had that concert in Atlanta. He got on the plane. They had a medical emergency. They landed, I forgot where, like Michigan or something, and then went back up, went home. He was feeling kind of wonky, did one of his shows, his impromptu shows in the backyard, and then dude gets in the elevator, like I guess a day later, dies in the elevator.
What was that? I can't even remember what was the cause of Prince's death.
I don't remember the exact, but...
So many stories about the legendary shows where he played all night.
Yeah, at his house. And I can't imagine trying to get... His house looks like a business.
You can do tours, right? Tours of the house.
That family is making as much money as they can now. 6, the Motown Museum, Detroit. That's kind of an obvious one. 5, the Whiskey A Go-Go in L.A. Still going. That's a great place to go see. I've seen only one show there, and it was a nobody. It was no one ever knew. But think about the bands that have gone through that stage.
Just to go there, kind of like the Viper Room.
Van Halen. I mean, all these bands that got their start there. Motley Crue. Number 4 is a must in the Southeast. If you haven't been there, you need to just stop what you're doing and go. Graceland.
Great. And by the way, I have a story about Graceland coming up, but a lot of movies have been filmed around that area too.
Like on the lot?
I think so.
Wow.
Somebody told me that.
I was always fascinated.
I will look that up. But yeah, you were always fascinated just by Elvis, right?
Always. And I really wanted to go upstairs. I just want to see, I don't need to see the throne. I just want to see what it's like up there. And it never, that I know of, I don't know anyone that's been up there besides, obviously, Lisa Marie, rest in peace. But the whole grave misspelling has tripped me out for years. When you go in there, it's not like you've been there, right?
You need a hall pass. Yes, once. You need a hall pass.
It feels like you're just in some friends from high school's house. It's not that ostentatious, really. Number 3, Crossroads in Clarksdale, Mississippi. Is that Clapton?
Yeah.
Crossroads?
Well, it's a trio of electric guitars on this pole. And the legend says that Robert Johnson, who's the big blues musician, sold his soul to the devil for the ability to play the blues. And so that was how Crossroads from Clapton started.
He did it right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Clapton, started the whole Crossroads Festival.
That's funky.
In honor of... Yeah, Robert Johnson.
The Bob Dylan Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Had no idea Bob Dylan had.
Me either.
It's like a full-on big building. He has a full-on museum. No clue whatsoever.
I did not know that.
Number 1, Apollo Theater, New York.
Yeah, I've been there.
I mean, I've seen it on TV. What is the big deal with it? Like, why is that?
It's just legendary theater that opened in early 1900s for blues, but it's turned into just an iconic building and venue. There's still shows there, as you know. A lot of rock legends.
It's in Harlem.
Yeah. Elvis Costello had this great show called Spectacle, and he used to film it there, and I went many times when I lived in New York. But yeah, it's worth a visit to go to a show at the Apollo.
Just how is that number 1 over something like Graceland? But think of the ones missing. The Cobain House, which I mentioned. What about Presley's childhood home? I just saw that last summer. How is that not on there?
Seems like there are a few. It seems like there are a few things that are missing, especially in Nashville, where you've got Johnny Cash's house and things like that. But, maybe they need an updated list.
What about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Not only just for the architecture of that, I went to that. I thought it was really cool. You can actually go in rooms and jam. They have live instruments. You go into like a closed soundproof room and you can knock yourself out on drums, guitars, keyboards.
Didn't you go to that other museum in Seattle?
That's it. That's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
No, I'm talking about...
you're talking about like the Pop Culture Museum?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Anyway, it seems like we need a more of an updated list because there's so much history, especially, like I said, in Nashville. But it's a good list.
Let's get together an Atlanta list because there are so many rock and roll landmarks.
Wow,
from
think about
album
that.
covers to homes think about all the different things between like Leonard Skinner and...
I'd say venues, too, where a lot of bands got their start.
Totally. Let's curate that I'll put a post up on the Morning X page and also on 99X. If you see it, stop by, add your 2 cents. What are the most rock and roll landmarks, the biggest ones in Atlanta that every fan should know about? Hit us up on 99X.com.
The Morning X with Barnes and Leslie. 99X.